A cold metallic taste in your mouth. The moment you realize your voice will not save you here. You scan the room, searching for a sign of softness, a refuge. But all you find are eyes that measure, words that cut, hands that take without offering anything back. You say yes when you want to say no. You offer help before it is asked. You forgive before an apology arrives that never will. This is not grace. This is not strength. But in this moment, it is the only story you know how to tell about yourself. They call you kind. They smile as they take. Each smile chips away something you can never quite name, until one day you wake up and realize there is nothing left for you. What if the very trait you have been praised for your entire life, the one that kept you safe, loved, and accepted, is the one slowly erasing you, decision by decision, word by word? The world will not tell you its price. You have to discover it yourself. But what if you never do? What if you keep paying it forever? Kindness. The word itself glows soft in memory. It is how you were taught to be seen, the thread woven through every lesson, the answer to every question about what makes a good person. It starts early. Be nice. Share with others. Don't make waves. Parents, teachers, well-meaning adults, approval given for compliance, withheld for resistance. Kindness at first is a shield, but then you grow. Suddenly, the world becomes sharper. The rules change. The shield of childhood kindness becomes a script you cannot stop performing. You carry it into every room and lay it out for others. A silent offering. Your voice dims. Your edges blur. The psychologist Carl Jung called this phenomenon the persona, the mask you wear for the world's comfort. But this mask is not neutral. It bends you, shapes you, until you cannot remember whose features came first, yours or the world's. There is nothing wrong with wanting to be kind. But when kindness becomes obedience, when it becomes the only answer you have to every problem, every conflict, every betrayal, it is no longer kindness. It is survival. For centuries, cultures have blessed the good child, the helpful friend, the one who smooths over tension. Every major spiritual tradition praises compassion. Philosophers debate whether altruism is virtue or just a clever mask for ego. But what they rarely discuss is this: kindness is a currency, and every currency can be exploited. The Stoics warned against the dangers of living for other people's approval. Epictetus wrote, "If you want to improve, be content to be thought foolish and stupid." Translation: seeking safety in the good opinion of others costs you the one thing you cannot replace, your sovereignty. Kindness, when unexamined, is submission, dressed in fine linen. It is a code for avoiding conflict, even when that conflict is necessary for your growth. But here is what most people never realize about this. Kindness, when unbounded, is a cage built from your own hands. And the world knows exactly how to keep you building it. The reason this happens goes deeper than most people realize. Think back. Every time you said yes when you wanted to say no. Each moment you swallowed your disagreement, choosing silence over honesty. Each birthday spent making sure everyone else was happy. Because that is what good people do. This is not a flaw. This is conditioning. Jung said, "The greatest burden a child must bear is the unlived life of the parents." Your kindness did not spring from nowhere. It was shaped, carved, even coerced by the needs and anxieties of those who raised you. Maybe your parents feared conflict. Maybe they punished anger and rewarded compliance. Maybe you learned that being liked was safer than being honest. Every lesson repeated until it became reflex. The world outside reinforced it. Classrooms, friendships, early jobs, everywhere. The same contract. Be likable, be agreeable, and you might be left alone. Withhold, demand, or contradict, and watch the doors quietly close. Historical roots run deeper. In medieval courts, the likable were favored, until their usefulness wore thin. In modern workplaces, the agreeable are promoted, but only up to the line where their loyalty is no longer useful. Then, they are overlooked, forgotten, or quietly replaced. The mechanism is ancient. The herd rewards what keeps the herd stable. You learn to become invisible for the sake of peace, but invisibility is an expensive currency. Imagine this: kindness as a well. The well is deep, but not infinite. Every time you ignore your needs, the water drops lower. Every time you rescue someone who should learn on their own, more water drains away. Eventually, the well runs dry. What is left is not virtue, but a hollow ache. This is not your fault. It is the natural outcome of a system that values order over authenticity. Kindness untempered by discernment is the ideal prey for opportunists. You have felt this, the physical sense of being watched, measured, and chosen precisely because you do not fight back. A pattern emerges. The world does not simply reward kindness. It identifies those most willing to bleed, and it asks for more every time. You did not choose to become the sacrifice, but you did learn over years that being needed was safer than being whole. This is why it keeps happening. This is why you keep paying. And it shows up in your life in ways that you may never have dared to name. Right below, if you had to name the one relationship, the one context, or the one moment where kindness cost you the most, what would it be? Put it in the comments. Naming it is the beginning. Subscribe if you want to keep going. There is a replacement for this pattern, and you need to see it. You do this when you say yes to requests that hollow you out. Someone asks, and before the question is finished, you are already nodding. You call it generosity, but your body knows the truth. Your stomach tightens, your breath shortens. You do not want this, but you do it anyway. You feel this as anxiety before every difficult conversation. The wish to be liked, to remain safe, stronger than your will to be honest. You rehearse apologies for things that were never your fault. When the moment to speak arrives, you choose silence and then punish yourself in private. You recognize this by the relationships that leave you drained, not nourished. The friend who only calls when they need to unload. The partner who expects you to bear the emotional burden for both of you. The colleague who offloads their work onto your desk, smiling, "You're just so good at this." Your kindness has become their permission. You do this when you apologize for simply existing. You shrink in meetings. You soften your voice. You cross your own boundaries before anyone else even has to ask. One day, you no longer remember what your own preference sounds like. It shows up in the way you cannot sleep, the mind running inventory on every decision, every word, wondering if you did enough, gave enough, were enough, never certain, always waiting for someone else to confirm your worth. You see it most clearly in the moments when you finally need help and find that no one is coming. The world that praised your kindness is nowhere to be found when it is your turn to lean, to ask, to receive. Each of these are wounds that you were taught to carry as evidence of your goodness, but they are scars, not medals. So you begin to wonder if kindness kindness costs so much and returns so little, what else is possible? What is the choice you have never been shown? And once you see how deeply this runs, the question becomes what to do about it. Kindness is not the enemy. The absence of boundaries is. The replacement is not cruelty, not coldness, not becoming what you once feared. The replacement is clarity, a standard that does not shift with others' moods or needs. Most people believe they have to choose between being kind and being respected. What is actually required is the courage to be misunderstood, to hold to your values, even when others resent you for it. Jung wrote of individuation, not blending in, but becoming unrepeatable. He warned that comfort is the enemy of transformation. The world loves the agreeable because they are easy to manage. But true power is found by those who are willing to become uncomfortable, to stand apart. The cost of clarity is real. The world will call you unkind, selfish, even cruel. But this is projection, others resenting the boundaries that force them to meet their own needs. Clarity begins where self-abandonment ends. You reclaim your voice. You state your needs without apology. You say no, and you do not explain yourself beyond what is necessary. Example: in negotiations, the one who names their terms first sets the frame. The one who hedges, who delays, who tries to be liked, loses control of the outcome. This is not aggression, it is precision. Another example: you do not absorb the emotions of every person who enters your life. You can witness someone's pain without inheriting it. This is not coldness, it is stewardship of your own energy. The great Stoic Epictetus taught, "No man is free who is not master of himself. You are not required to carry what is not yours." There is a boundary between empathy and self-erasure. Honor it. And there is another layer, the strategic. Machiavelli wrote that perception is reality. The person who can project certainty and non-negotiable standards shapes how others treat them. It is not performance, it is mastery. A practical example: the strongest leaders are those who can be silent when others expect reassurance, who can hold discomfort without reaching to soothe. Their presence is felt not in words, but in the energy they bring into the room. Most people believe kindness is what makes you likable. In reality, it is having your own standard that compels others to adapt. They may not like you, but they will respect you. And respect is the true currency of power. Jung again. The privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are. This privilege is not given. It is earned every time you refuse to betray yourself for comfort or approval. And once you see this clearly, truly clearly, something shifts. This is not a flaw. It is a signal. The same energy that once kept you safe by being kind can be harnessed, sharpened, and directed toward your own becoming. You have walked through your own silence, your own empty rooms, your own history of saying yes when you meant no. Every scar, every moment you faded for someone else's peace is now evidence, not of weakness, but of survival. If this reframe has shifted something in you, a like puts it in front of someone else who needs it right now. The pain of kindness, when it becomes a cage, is the invitation into sovereignty. The world will always push. It will test your boundaries, press for reassurance, interpret your silence as weakness. But you are not required to explain. You are not here to rescue those unwilling to rescue themselves. Consider the myth of Prometheus. He brought fire to humanity, an act of kindness that cursed him to eternal pain. the story is misunderstood. The lesson is not never give. It is give with awareness. Give knowing the cost. And never give what will destroy you. There is a stillness inside you that knows what is worth defending, that knows who you are and what cannot be traded, not for approval, not for love, not even for peace. This is the core that Machiavelli called virtue, not virtue as goodness, but as power rooted in clarity and self-mastery. When you refuse to move for anything less than your own standard, the world adjusts to you, not from fear, but from recognition. The games end. The masks drop. The question is no longer whether you can change. The question is whether you are willing to begin. The first practice: identify your non-negotiables. These are the standards beneath which you will not go, no matter how loud the pressure, how heavy the guilt, how urgent the need to please. Write them down. Name them without apology or qualification. Second, rehearse the art of saying no, not as an act of aggression, but as a quiet statement of fact. When a request crosses your boundary, let your response be brief. No explanation, no apology. Practice in small moments with low stakes at first, so the muscle can grow. Third, build the discipline of radical self-inquiry. Before accepting any demand, ask yourself, does this serve my growth? Does this align with my standard? Is this generosity? Or am I bargaining for safety and acceptance? The honest answer will guide you more reliably than any social script. These practices are not easy. Each one will be tested by guilt, by isolation, by others' disappointment. But each time you choose clarity over comfort, the world bends a fraction more to your unyielding momentum. With time, you will notice the shift. The invitations that once drained you disappear. The relationships that demanded your sacrifice fade. What is left are those who see your boundaries not as obstacles, but as the walls of your true cathedral. You understand now what that feeling was about. It was never about kindness or cruelty. It was always about whether you would remain loyal to yourself. You were not born to be a peacekeeper for a war that started before you arrived. You were not made to vanish at the first sign of someone else's discomfort. You are not here to be the sacrifice that keeps the room warm for everyone else. The world will take and take until you decide your own worth. But once you do, the game changes. Your kindness, no longer exploited, becomes rare, and therefore truly valuable. The only approval you need is from the self you see in the quiet, in the mirror, in the moments before sleep. That self is waiting for you to step forward, unapologetic, defined. There is nothing more dangerous or more necessary than this. There is a silence that falls after you draw the line. The first day you say no and mean it. The first time you watch disappointment flicker in someone's eyes and do not rush to smooth it away. You feel it, a heaviness, not quite grief, not yet relief. The echo of all those years spent keeping peace, holding your tongue, bending rather than breaking. There is a cost to this new posture. You will feel it in the awkward pauses, the invitations that no longer come, the sudden chill from people who once relied on your softness as their shelter. It is the price of no longer being easy to move, of becoming a fixed point in a world that keeps shifting. But stand there long enough, and the landscape around you begins to change. You will lose things you never really had. A counterfeit belonging. Approval built on your willingness to disappear. In their place, Something ancient stirs. The part of you that once roared and claimed before you learned that kindness could be a muzzle. You remember what it felt like to act from the center of yourself, rather than react to the demands of others. There is pain in this rebirth. Self-loyalty is not comfort. It is cutting away everything that grew in the shade. But it is the only path to a peace that cannot be taken from you. Even as you build the new, echoes of the old script will call to you. The urge to apologize for your own existence, the guilt for saying no, the reflex to explain, to shrink, to soften your edge so no one gets cut. You will hear their voices, past and present, telling you that you are selfish, cold, difficult, that this is not who you are. They are wrong. What they call selfishness is simply the refusal to be consumed. What they call coldness is the warmth you once wasted on those who never returned it. What they call difficulty is the unyielding clarity of a person who finally knows where he ends and others begin. There is no guilt in protecting what is sacred, and your self-respect is sacred. Most people were taught without words that kindness means being chosen. That self-sacrifice is the entry fee for belonging. This was always a bargain. You give, they stay. You bend, they approve. You fracture yourself one piece at a time until there is barely anything left to betray. It is a contract written in fear, signed with silence. But you are rewriting it now. Kindness is no longer the currency you spend to avoid loneliness, rejection, exile. Kindness now is what you give when it costs you nothing essential. The love that remains is the love that survives your boundaries. The rest was never truly for you. In the space your new boundaries create, something powerful grows. Power does not announce itself. It is quiet certainty, a stillness others cannot rattle. It is walking into a room and no longer scanning for permission. It is knowing, without bravado, that anyone who cannot hold your truth cannot hold you. You become less available, less understood. Some will call it arrogance. Let them. The people who misunderstand you for refusing to be used were never interested in who you truly are, only what you could do for them. To be misunderstood for the right reasons is a sign of growth. There are nights when new strength feels like exile. You remember when invisibility meant safety, when your kindness bought you company, even if it came at the cost of yourself. Now, the room feels emptier, but the silence is clean. There is loss woven into every act of self-definition. But loneliness born from integrity is not the same as the loneliness of abandonment. The first is the space before something real enters your life. The second is the vacuum left when you abandon yourself. Clarity always costs you the illusions you once called comfort. You will be tested, repeatedly, relentlessly, not by overt enemies, but by the subtle, desperate energy of those who want you back in the old pattern. Are you still available at the first sign of need? Will you bend again, just this once? If you hold, the world learns. If you yield, the old story returns, faster than you can blink. Every time you remain unmoved, the test grows less frequent. Eventually, the world stops expecting you to break. This is not about being hard. It is about being whole. People feel the difference. They sense when your yes is clean, when your no is calm, when your giving is no longer tinged with the fear of being left behind. You finally offer others what you possess in abundance, not what you hope to buy their love with. The more you anchor yourself, the more you can give without losing your ground. The culture worships niceness, but niceness is not virtue. It is camouflage. It is the appearance of cooperation while quietly hoping for a reward. Kindness in its mature form is not about appeasing or pleasing. It is about standing generous and unafraid, able to choose when and where to give. You wield it like a sword, sharp, precise, under your command. Kindness is not your leash. It is your tool. No one gets to chain you to their expectations in the name of your virtue. Machiavelli was not an advocate for cruelty only for usefulness. He knew that mercy, when given to those who exploit it, becomes another form of tyranny against yourself. True power is being able to choose your kindness strategically, sparingly, justly. It means never offering it out of fear. You are not here to be the easy mark for those who mistake your gentleness for weakness. You are here to walk unafraid, to govern yourself before anyone governs you. So, what is the brutal replacement for sacrificial kindness? It is sovereignty. Sovereignty is not isolation. It is not the rejection of connection. It is the refusal to pay for love with your integrity. You govern your choices. You choose your alliances. Your yes and your no come from a place untouched by need. When you do this, the world cannot help but respond. Not always with love, but with respect. Respect carries further than all the hollow approval in the world. As you step into this new way of being, you will renegotiate every relationship in your life. Sometimes wordlessly, sometimes with the sharp edge of truth. Some people will leave. Let them. Some will test your boundaries, unsuccessfully. A few will rise to meet you where you now stand. What returns to you is what was meant to last. Everything else was a visitor, drawn by the scent of your self-betrayal. The landscape of your life will be sparser, but every presence will be earned. With every act of self-loyalty, you build a life that does not depend on the weather of other people's moods or the tides of their approval. You find abundance in the quiet, the abundance of energy reclaimed, of dignity regained, of peace restored. You are richer for every act of kindness not given away in fear. You are wealthier in the currency of your own attention, your own care, your own rooted presence. Nothing is wasted on those who do not value it. Everything flows back to you, multiplied. Every step down this path takes you further from the old self, further from the sacrificial victim, closer to the architect of your own life. There are days you will feel the urge to retreat, to take it all back, to be small, to be safe. Do not. Every time you honor yourself, you are laying another stone in a foundation that will outlast your loneliness, your doubt, your need. You are building an identity no storm can move. History does not remember the endlessly agreeable, the perpetually available, the peacekeepers who traded themselves for false harmony. History remembers those who were unyielding where it mattered, who refused the roles written for them by the comfort of others. Kindness without the steel of self-respect erases itself. Kindness wielded with discernment becomes legend. You choose which legacy you leave behind. This is not a path for most people. Most will return to the old trade: kindness for crumbs, obedience for acceptance, silence for safety. But you are not most people. You have seen the real cost. You have glimpsed the real power that lies on the other side of all your apologies. The work begins now, in the silence after the goodbye, in the space left behind by old obligations. Build, Guard, shape, let the world say what it will. In the end, all debts to the world are paid, either with your truth or with your self-abandonment. Only one purchase buys you peace. Let kindness flow, but never let it cost you the one thing that cannot be replaced, your own loyalty to yourself. The world will try to convince you otherwise. It always has. But you know the price is too high. If you are ready to keep building a life rooted in unshakable self-respect, subscribe. This journey is not for the faint of heart, but for those willing to do the real work. You do not owe the world your self-erasure to buy a place at its table. You are allowed to be both kind and unbreakable. Thank you for being here. I will see you in the next one.